Good morning, guys. My name is RJ Connell of rjconnell.ca, and if this is your first time catching one of my live broadcasts, then I want to welcome you. This morning, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to overcome overwhelm and figure out where to start. But before we jump into that, I want you to go ahead and invite somebody to this broadcast. So if this is something that you've dealt with, or if you know somebody who struggles with this, or you think might be struggling with this, then I want you to go ahead and just tag a friend in the broadcast and invite someone or share this broadcast with them so that they can also benefit from this. Sounds good? Awesome. Okay. So, if you've dealt with overwhelm before, this is sometimes what it looks like. I'm going to give you what I think is a relatable example, especially as a recent graduate. So, oftentimes there were times during my degree where I had a paper to write, I had maybe a lab report to complete, and I also had, I don't know, a small group or something to do. So when I had all of these things that I needed to do, I was, especially on a day off, when I had time off, I often didn't want to do any of them because I was tired or overwhelmed and it was just so much to do. So then what would end up happening is I would decide not to do any of them. And instead, I would decide I'm just going to watch Netflix instead because it was just, I could take my mind off of all the things that I needed to do. Or maybe you're somebody who has all of these different ideas, different things that you want to try. So maybe you're a really good baker, maybe you're really good with tutoring, and maybe you are also a phenomenal dancer or something like that. Or maybe you want to write a book. You have all of these different things that you want to try, that you can try, but you don't know where to start. And so you're looking at all of these different areas and you either don't start any of them, or what ends up happening is you bounce around from idea to idea. So you do a little bit of tutoring, you do a little bit of dancing, you start writing a book, or at least maybe start taking the first couple steps towards writing a book. You have all of these different ideas, but you don't actually commit to any one of them. So usually in those cases, you're dealing with overwhelm. And when you're dealing with overwhelm, what that looks like is the way I can describe it to you is that you don't know where to start. And so if you find yourself in that position, it's usually because of overwhelm. And overwhelm usually comes because you don't have a strategy. So you need a strategy in place because a strategy will tell you where to start and what to stick with. That's what having a strategy helps you do. So for the person who wants to write a book and has written a book, when they've been able to complete that book, the difference is that they had a plan to get from where they are from the beginning to the end point. So they knew, okay, this is what I'm starting with, and this is where I'm going to end up. This is where I'm going to go in the end. That's the difference between someone who wants to do something and someone who actually does something and is able to see their goal through to the end. So that's what having a strategy does for you. It also prevents you from bouncing around to different areas. So it's going to help you decide, okay, I'm going to start with this, I'm going to stick with this, see it through to the end, and then when I'm done, I'm going to circle back around and try one of my other ideas. So that's what a strategy really does for you. So I want to jump in with you guys today, how to create a strategy. I'm sorry if you're hearing a little noise in the background. We're out of town right now, so I'm currently in a hotel. So that's why you might hear a little bit of background noise, but please bear with me. So I'm going to jump in with you guys how to create a strategy that's really going to help you focus and get from the start line to the finish line. So with your strategy, the first thing I want you to do is write down all of the ideas that you have, good or bad. Write down all of the things that you want to pursue, things that you think will make either a great business or things that you just love to do that you're passionate about. Write all of them down on a master list. So whatever comes to mind, just write it down for now. That's going to be step one. Step two is going to be identifying from that list which of those goals makes sense for you right now. And the way you want to do that is by looking at your current commitments. So what are the things that you have going on in your life right now? Does it make sense for you to does it make sense for you to start writing a book right now with all of the other commitments you have? Or does it make sense for you to start tutoring right now with all of the other commitments that you have? So that's what I want you to do. Look at all the commitments that you have right now and ask yourself, which one of these goals makes sense for me right now? If you're a student and you're in school, maybe writing a book isn't the best thing for you right now with your other commitments, because maybe you're already doing a lot of writing for your classes and in writing papers and reports and stuff like that. But maybe the tutoring does make sense for you right now, because with tutoring, you have students around you already who need help. So that marketing would be easy. It would be easy to acquire students and also fit it in to your school schedule, because you're going to be spending a lot of time at school anyways. So that's just an example of how you can figure out, does this make sense for me right now with my current commitments? The other thing I want you to do when you're asking yourself this question is also figure out, am I willing to make space for this? Because maybe you can write the book at this time period, but maybe you're not willing to, because it means you would have to take something else off of your plate. So that's what you want to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what makes sense for me right now. You want to find out, is this something that I'm willing to make space for? And that might mean taking something else off of your plate. All right, so that was step 2. Step 3 is creating focus around that one goal that you decided on. And the way that you're going to do that is by devoting your time, your resources, and your attention towards that one goal. It is so important to create focus, because when you are creating focus around a goal, it means that you are inherently deciding not to focus on something else. So if you decided to focus on writing that book, it means you are deciding not to focus on the tutoring and not to focus on the baking, or really any other idea that might come up during that time period. And it's important to be aware of this, because there are going to be times in your journey where it feels like you are missing out on certain things, where it feels like, oh my gosh, that would have been a great opportunity for tutoring, or it'd have been so awesome if I could have done that right now. And you're going to be tempted to divert your focus. You're going to be tempted to, oh, well, let me just jump into tutoring. Maybe I could do tutoring on the side as well while I write my book. And that's not impossible. However, if you're splitting your time and your resources and your attention between multiple things, it means that none of those things are getting your full attention, are getting your full effort. And that does become a problem, because it means you're likely not going to reach the end. And if you don't reach the end, you're going to give up on it, right? And so that's why it's important to divert your time, your resources, and your attention towards that one goal. Keep in mind that even though you are focusing on one goal for now, you can always come back to the other ones later. They're not going to go anywhere. And so right now we're just choosing one, and we're going to see it through to the end. And then once we're done seeing it through to the end, we're going to circle back around and apply the same strategy to one of your other goals. And as you get better at doing this, you're going to be reaching your goals faster as well. So it's not going to take you as long as it is the first time. So keep that in mind. All right, so that was your third thing. The fourth thing that you're going to do in terms of creating a strategy is you are going to commit. This is so important, because committing means you give yourself enough time to actually see the goal through to the end. One of the biggest problems that I find when we create goals is that we don't actually give ourselves enough time. We don't think about the time that it's going to take for us to learn the skills needed to actually accomplish that goal. And that's important, because I'm going to use another example. Let's say I decided I wanted to save $100,000. And that's the goal that I'm focusing on for right now. In learning to do that, maybe I think, okay, well, I can give myself 12 months to figure out to reach my goal. But I'm not thinking about how long it's going to take me to actually acquire the skills that I need to learn how to save money. For example, maybe I need to make a budget. How long is that going to take me to figure out my budget? Also, I'm going to need to learn how to make sacrifices. I'm going to need to learn how to bargain shop, and all of these different things. And I'm not factoring the fact that it might take me 4 months just to get my budget down, because I need to evaluate, well, what are my expenses? How am I spending right now? Where's my money going right now? How much money am I actually making after taxes and after I pay my healthcare plan and all those things? It's just not something we really think about right off the bat. And so because we're not thinking about it, we give ourselves a timeline that's unrealistic. We say, okay, I can do this in 12 months. And yeah, you might be able to do it in 12 months if you start today and you do it perfectly, but that's not real life. And so you got to factor in reality in that. And if it's something you've never done before, like if you've never really been disciplined with your money before, you have to give yourself the grace to learn how to do that. It's not just going to happen because you decided on it. You're still going to have to practice. You're still going to stumble along the way. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's part of the process. And when you're not prepared to stumble, the first time you stumble, you're likely going to give up. Because in your mind, everything was supposed to go smoothly. But It's not going to happen, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, you might set a goal for yourself that takes you a long time to accomplish. So maybe saving $100,000 isn't realistic to do in 12 months. Maybe that's more of a 5-year goal. That's also okay. There is nothing wrong with setting a goal that takes you a long time to accomplish. Just because it's long, it doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, just because it's going to take you a while to get there. So keep that in mind. There is nothing wrong with setting a goal that might take you 5 years to accomplish. You just have to be aware of that going in, so that after 12 months, you're not looking around like, what is going on? Why have I only saved $50? Keep that in mind. The learning curve tends to be steeper right in the beginning, but as you go along and the more time that you practice this, you will get better. So keep that in mind. So that's why it's so important to give yourself time and you commit to that goal by being realistic about the time period, the timeline that you give yourself for that goal. All right, guys? So I want to recap those 4 things again so that you can write them down if you haven't already. So step number 1 was creating a master list of all of the things that you want to do. Everything that comes to mind, just go ahead and write it down as part of that master list. Step 2 is that you are going to look at that list and try to identify what makes sense for me right now, with where I am right now, with the current commitments that I have, and am I willing to make room for this goal by maybe taking something off of my plate? So that's the second thing that you want to ask yourself. The third thing is you want to create focus around that goal by directing your time, your attention, and your resources towards it. And so that might mean that you have to say no to something else. And that's okay. It's part of the journey. So keep that in mind. You might have to say no to other things. You likely will have to say no to other things as you are creating focus around this one goal. And the last thing is commit by giving yourself enough time to actually see the goal through all the way to the end. Factor in the time it's going to take you to learn the skills to accomplish that goal. Depending on what your goal is, that learning curve might just be a couple weeks. It could be a couple months. It could even be years, right? So you never know depending on what your goal is. So just keep that in mind, because when you're aware of it, you can prepare for it. And when you're prepared for it, then you'll know how to handle it when it comes up. That makes sense? All right. So if this is something that you want to do, and you found this helpful, but you want maybe a little bit more of a breakdown with this, then I want you to head over to rjconnell.ca. On my website, click trainings, and under trainings, you're going to find a guide that says Step Your Way to Success. This is a really detailed guide, but it's also very simple. It's very practical, and it'll break down for you how to identify your goal. It'll break down for you how to define your goal so that it's a specific goal, so it's realistic and so it's attainable, and also how to set a realistic time period for whatever goal it is you choose. It'll also tell you what you should be doing every day, what you should be doing in the morning, what you should be doing in the evening towards this goal. And really what it's going to teach you is how to be productive on a daily basis. So how to take small steps every day towards your goal. So that's what that guide is for. And it's really detailed, but it's also very simple. You can get through it in about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, guys? So again, that's at rjconnell.ca. Head over there, click on the trainings tab, and you can download the Step Your Way to Success guide. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me here this morning. I'm going to be back on here Monday morning at 7:30 a.m., and I'm also going to be teaching again. So please, before you jump off, share this live broadcast with somebody if you found this information helpful or if you think it can help somebody else. Thank you guys so much for joining me here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to live out my dreams by helping you accomplish yours. All right, guys, I will see you Monday morning. Have an awesome, amazing day.